I had a lovely home, a fantastic husband, a nice life, and a rewarding career. I had everything I needed. I was laid off 2 years ago when our first child was about to be born. The bank where I worked offered me a relocation to a division closer to my home, but my husband makes more money, so I declined and looked for another employment at home. When I went into unemployment, I was disappointed and unhappy, but I dismissed it as a minor setback. I, on the other hand, felt lost. I believe I was always a wonderful wife because I prioritized it. However, I was aware that my profession was not providing me with the personal fulfillment and happiness that I required in my life. Many people will criticize me for it, but it's a personal choice. It had an impact on me as a wife as well. I wasn't as cheerful as usual. My husband, bless his heart, tried everything he could to assist me, including sitting on my side of the bed and promising to do whatever it takes to make me happy if I simply told him. But I couldn't tell him because I didn't know how to make myself happy. A few months later, we ran into one of our close friends who used to attend our church at a restaurant. At our invitation, he sat down with us and we had a wonderful talk. He made me an offer when he asked what I was doing and I told him I was between jobs. He wanted me to pose for him because he's a photographer. I chuckled because I am not a model, but that is exactly what he needed, the world's real pregnant women. He was dead serious about it. I had been thinking about it all night and was becoming excited about it. It was dressed, not naked or in lingerie. My husband was hesitant at first, but when he realized how much I wanted to do it, he agreed. I joined in the picture session and wore everyday clothes such as jeans, khakis, dresses, and skirts. I conducted 6 photo shoots and had so much fun that I felt sexy even though I was wearing regular clothes. I viewed the photos from my last session and thought I looked fantastic. He had an idea for my wedding anniversary. How about lingerie? Although it was 3 months away, I liked the concept. My spouse would adore it, and I had grown to trust this photographer. As a result, I posed in lingerie. I was a little uneasy at first, but as we progressed, I felt better. In fact, I was in a fantastic mood. I got carried away and made a mistake. I slid the straps of my teddy down and relaxed. I just did it without him asking, and he took a lot of pictures of that. He kissed me on the lips. I was shocked at first, but soon enjoyed it. On set, we did a lot of things we weren't supposed to do. We didn't do it just once that afternoon. We did it multiple times. I just completely let go. It was incredible. I even forgot I was pregnant. It wasn't until I came home that it hit me. When I saw my husband's clothes, our bed, and the smell of our surroundings, I was overcome with emotion. It was familiar. It reminded me of my place in the world. It was my home and all I had. When it hit me, I sobbed uncontrollably. I couldn't believe I had betrayed my husband when our child was still in my tummy. I immediately stopped shooting. I didn't respond to the photographer's texts or phone calls, and I never saw the photos he took of me. It said cheating all over it. I eventually told my husband face to face about it. He was overwhelmed and his heart was broken. He hasn't touched me since then, which was almost 5 months ago. He hasn't divorced me, and while he is polite to me, he is no longer kind and caring as he once was. He used to be all over me, but now he won't even touch me. It hurts to realize how badly I screwed up, and I wish I could undo the harm I've caused, but I'm afraid I won't be able to, and I'm afraid I'm about to lose the only man who has ever meant anything to me. He was the one. What should I do now? Should I let him go? I was around 7 years old, and my brother was 10, when our mother got up from the couch to put us to bed. It was long past our bedtime. Our father used to work construction out of town, so it was often just the 3 of us at home for weeks at a time. There was a window door at either end of the hallway in my house's upstairs that is always locked and rarely opened. I'd always had strange thoughts about that door and never look at it when I walked to my room. My mother and brother were both used to waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I only knew because I was always a light sleeper and they couldn't stop flushing with the door opened. That night, however, on his way to his room, my brother turned around and returned to the bathroom, telling me that he was going to try to use the bathroom before going to bed because lately he kept seeing a ghost in stripes at the end of the hallway. I'm not sure if my mother mistook my brother's confession as reciting ghost stories to scare me or if she was already half asleep and didn't notice, but she didn't react to my brother's confession. She just said it was midnight, so my brother may have mistaken something with a ghost. It frightened me. On the other hand, the fear of seeing a ghost like that at the end of the hallway or through the windows is why when the light in the living room was turned off at night, I began sprinting from the stairs to my bedroom. That scary feeling carried with me until I was older. My brother stopped the midnight bathroom, so we didn't know if there was any ghost at the end of the hallway. My mother and I were talking in her car one day about a dog we had for a short period when I was a child. Do you remember that time I opened the front door for the cops and Max rushed inside to the kitchen and hid in the corner because he was afraid of the police siren? My mother blurted out as we were telling memories about Max's, our dog, proclivity for shredding my shoes and other misbehaviors. This surprised me because we had never called the cops in all the years I lived in that house. I questioned what she was talking about, and she appeared equally astonished, as if she had accidentally exposed something. Oh, yes, that's true, because you were too little at the time. I never told you. I awoke one night hearing noises outside my window, and when I glanced outside, I saw a man staring into my bedroom with a knife in his hand, attempting to break into our home. She went on to say that putting on the lights made him flee, and that she grabbed my father's gun before phoning the cops, preparing herself to approach that guy. I don't recall all the information I provided them when they arrived. Tall, white male, striped shirt and pants, short black hair, anything along those lines. It matched the description of a man that the cops were looking for in the neighborhood, according to them. It turned out he escaped from prison on a murder charge. So the ghost that my brother saw many years ago was a murderer. I was stunned, and when realizing it was a criminal, my nerves got wrecked. It was even scarier than seeing a ghost. Now, I know it sounds so simple when you hear those stories back to back, but it wasn't until a few years ago that I realized my brother had accidentally warned us about a killer who had spent numerous nights casing our home attempting to murder us. Glad that we are still alive and that my mom saw that man that night. Well, I guess ghosts don't exist, and if you saw someone at your window, instead of calling a necromancer, you should call the cops. One day, my fiancé and I hosted a dinner party to honor his mother's treatment completion. I hired a caterer for the event. We were expecting 25 guests, which was more than our single-story ranch house's kitchenette could handle. He arrived on time at 12 p.m., and I gave him till 6 p.m. to do the task. During this time, he frequently asked about me and interrupted me with menu items in an attempt to remain near me. I reminded him I needed him entirely out by 6 o'clock no matter what, when he was still there at 5:45 after 2 polite reminders. He apologized and said that the delay was caused by our oven failing to maintain its temperature, but it never happened. As the clock approaches 6 o'clock, a few of our friends begin to arrive. I make the decision to tell him whatever is done, and whatever isn't should be put in the refrigerator. He was, however, nowhere to be seen. I go out on the deck to see if any of my friends have seen him, and there he was, alcoholic beverage in hand, chef's whites off, and now in a tee and jeans, socializing with my pals. I came out just in time for him to introduce himself as a dear buddy of mine to my cousin-in-law. Nope, for me, it was too strange. I only met him for the first time about 6 hours ago. I told him he needed to get out of there now. So he went inside, grabbed his belongings, and headed straight for my room. I'm surprised. Excuse me, I say? Where do you intend to go? To change, he added. First, and obviously, we have a plainly visible guest bathroom. Second, why can't he go home with a t-shirt and jeans? I told him I didn't want him in my room, but he claimed it would only take a second and went in, closing and locking the door. I felt helpless since I couldn't even get a word out before he plunged in. I was about to step outside and ask one of my friends to help me usher him out when my fiancé and aunt-in-law arrived. I was practically in tears when I had to explain the situation to him, and he was like, "What? Is it true that he entered the bedroom? Why?" So he slammed the door. My fiancé said to the caterer, who was still wearing a t-shirt and trousers, "You shouldn't be in there." "Excuse me, but that is not your choice. That is not up to you to decide," the caterer remarked. and my fiance told him, yes, actually, it is my house, and escorted him to the door with a hand on his back. I thought Frantic Sledder, my username, lived here. The caterer said. Yes, my fiance lives here with me, he replied. The caterer went crazy at that point. You lied to me, you bitch, he yelled as he turned to face me. I had no idea what he was referring to. He began ranting about how I had led him on, and continued to call me a bitch. I had no idea who he thought the man in the photos with me in the house was. Oh no, you won't talk like that in my house, my fiancé warned. Find the entrance. The caterer then went into the kitchen and began tossing food trays from the refrigerator onto the floor. He had a knife in his hand and threatened us. Immediately, I freaked out and tried to call the police, letting everyone stay far away from him, frightened of this crazy man. The police came and quickly forced him down with a taser. In the end, I called the caterer center, but it didn't respond. The police searched for this guy based on his information. They said that the center was fake and so did his information, so he ended up dealing with the fine. The party still continued, even though it was a terrifying experience, but we cleaned up the mess and ate some pizza at the end.